Good evening, everyone. I am your host and instructor, Laney Shaughnessy, and welcome to Spindle TV, your best source for CNC CAD/CAM training videos. Spindle TV is brought to you by Digital Woodcarver, inspiring your creativity and providing you with the tools to create your own unique masterpieces. Hello, hello. I hope everyone's doing all right tonight. Getting through the holidays. We got past Christmas and New Year's and all that wonderful stuff. Hopefully you guys are recovering from all that. I know I am. As soon as, with the holidays and the New Year's and everything, and then we jump right into the woodworking shows. So just got back from Baltimore, and things are going well there. So Happy New Year to everyone. There we go. Now we may experience a little bit of lag or buffering tonight. When I was setting up the video, I clicked on the wrong encoder, and when I was previewing the class video stream, once I clicked preview, it was done. I couldn't go, it wouldn't let me go back and edit my encoder and stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to get through, and we won't have any real issue with lagging and everything. And that would be a positive thing, if we didn't have any issues. No buffering. So if you experience buffering, it's my fault. Blame it on me. All right, we're going to give everybody a chance to get in. I want to welcome everybody. Hopefully we have some newcomers join us tonight and everything. Welcome, Mr. Ralph, Mr. Milton, and everybody. So tonight we're going to do a very simple project. And the reason why we're doing a simple project tonight is because I actually want to make one of these for myself. And I want to take the basic concept and drawing that I've kind of got in my mind, that I've kind of mocked up here in the Vectric software, and then I want to modify it. I'm trying to create some kind of little desk organizer, maybe a place where my keyboard and everything can go, but I can have a little docking station for my cell phone with a passive speaker in it that will amplify the sound. Maybe if I'm, maybe I can create a different version that would be for my tablet or something if it works. Depending on the speaker carving itself, it's not an actual like a stereo speaker. It's a passive speaker. It just amplifies the sound through the shape of a cone. Depending on the sound and how well it amplifies it and stuff, then that will lead into other types of projects of cell phone docking stations or cell phone charging and docking stations or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's the beginning of a many things. Let's put it that way. So we'll see how well that goes and everything. And right now I'm working on a basic design, the rock dock. The rock dock. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump on over to the Vectric software and take a look at the basic design that I've come up with, and then we'll go through and really change it up and make something that could be pretty cool, that if you guys and girls are looking to sell or make your projects and sell something, it might be something like a little desk organizer or whatever that would sell very well. Now, what you're about to see on the screen is just like a little docking station. It's not what I'm thinking for our end project and stuff, which we're going to get into and modify and everything. So let's go ahead and pop on over there and take a look at what we've got going on. All right. Roxanne. All right. So just wanted to give a little bit of a screen preview of kind of the basic. This is the basic model, right? We're gonna dress it up. We're gonna change it around. We're gonna make it bigger. We're gonna do some kind of cool stuff with it and all. But this will be the basic kind of concept. Basically, our cell phone, tablet, whatever we end up doing, will rest in here, and the speaker of the phone will be facing in the direction of the passive speaker here, and the sound will be amplified through this cone. It will come in and amplify in this cone and hopefully increase the volume of the speaker. Now, depending on this cone, its pitch, and you know, the carve itself, the ridges in here, I think will not hurt the sound quality or anything that's coming out. We can make it smooth. We're going to look at that as well. Do a couple little step overs on our tool paths and things like that when we get into it. And what it's going to end up being, because I've never made one, you know, I've not carved this yet or anything. This is going to be whatever we end up with at the end of the class is going to be a prototype, and basically I'm going to carve it. I'm going to test it, see how the sound and everything does, and then I'm going to build from there. I'll end up making a few different models of it. Some cell phones have speakers on the left, some of them have on the right, some of them upside down, what have you the case may be. In my case, my particular cell phone here, my speaker's on the top, so when this is docking, it would either have to sit upside down, or I'm going to create it to where it can sit on its side, you know, when looking. And so we'll kind of see how that goes. But again, it's a prototype, and so I thought while I was making this project, this would be a cool little class, because we're going to be working with offsets, we're going to be working with pocketing tool paths, we're going to be working with profile tool paths with our V-bit, and all kinds of things. And then of course we're going to do some drawing, and we're going to change up this style from this basic little concept you see here. And also there's going to be a lot of good little lessons in this very simple project. And then when it's all said and done, if it turns out to be you know, nice little passive speaker for a cell phone and everything, then that could be modified. It can be custom name engravings and all that stuff. It could be nice little selling items or something if you're at the markets or you're into that, you know, selling the markets and the fairs and everything. And you guys are going to get copies of these files and stuff as always, and then we'll go from there. All right, so let's go ahead and let's jump in and let's look at our basic design right now, and then let's modify it. So as you can tell just on the screen, very simple vectors. We've got a rectangular vector here with some radius corners, and this I thought would be maybe like a little, for this little dock, maybe like a little change station or a catch-all for keys or something, you know, for this little station. Whatever the case may be, we can make it bigger and make it like a little wallet holder for a little men's docking station or something, or a little jewelry holder for a women's, whatever, you know. This is where your imagination can kind of run wild and stuff. So we've got a rectangle for that. I got some text thrown in there just to fill in the void, but we're going to end up doing something different with that. We've got our slot here, a nice little rectangular slot with a arc at the end here, and where the phone will sit. And this arc in this particular model, this particular rendering, let's call it, is a 1/2 inch wide by a 1/2 inch deep. So the 1/2 inch wide will allow it, my phone will sit in there well enough that it will hold it securely, but it also with the being a 1/2 inch wide, it will give it a little bit of a tilt, so it leans back and stuff, and it's not just sitting straight up and down. It's got a little bit of a tilt to it. The phone will tilt back and all. We could make this wider if we wanted a little more tilt, whatever the case may be. And then, of course, I have some offset circles that are carved at different depths to create the passive speaker. Now, let's take this concept here and We're going to leave that on layer 1, and I'm going to right click, or left click, I'm sorry. I'm going to left click up here in layer 1, or we can access our layers down here in the bottom in our tabs and stuff. But I'm going to go up here. It's a little easier. I'll go back to my drawing tab there, but I'm going to go up here and I'm going to right click on layer 1 here and rename this, and I'm just going to call this the original concept, because right now it's a concept. This is just a kind of a starting point, and then we can kind of collaborate. I'll ask you guys some questions, what you think, you know, if this was, imagine if you were at your desk and you had your computer screens in front of you, your keyboard and things. If this was a accessory sitting on your desk, a little place or slot, maybe, you know, for a keyboard, what have you, what would you like to see? You know, maybe a little area where some, I don't know, notepads, or, you know, post-it notes, or pen or pencil holders, or what have you. We're gonna kind of just really create something cool and see what we can go from there. Now, one of the things that we've got to keep in mind, if we look at the you know, the project itself, you notice how thick it is here. I've got this at, it's going to end up being a total of, right now I think I have it as 1.5 inches. Let's take a look at the job setup. Yeah, 1.5 inches. Well, that would be a little bit too much. For a little docking station, that would be a good height. For our little tablet station, we're going to end up kind of tapering, you know, tapering this board down a little bit so it has kind of a little bit of a ramp to it. But what we want to achieve is, I'd like to be able to do this in either a 1-inch thick piece of material or 3/4. The only thing that I do not know how well or what effect it will have if we try this passive speaker in a 3/4 inch piece of material, will there be enough of a cone or an area to amplify the sound? And that's why it's a concept right now. We're going to change up some things. Are these changes for the positive, or are they for, you know, the bad? You know, is it going to affect the sound if I'm working with thinner material and I don't have enough, you know, of a cone for that sound to kind of, you know, amplify out of? All of that wonderful stuff we're going to kind of figure out as we go, and then ultimately going to end up making one of these and doing some tests, and then through those tests, gonna, you know, perfect the design. And when I get that nice sounding quality, when I throw my phone in there and it just amplifies the sound ever so slightly, or whatever the case may be, then from there I can apply that to other designs or concepts. You know, I could start to customize it with you know, company logos, or you know, whatever the case may be. You know, somebody's you know, little league team, whatever. You know what I mean? So we're kind of go from there. All right, what do you think? It's going to be a basic project, but it has realms of possibility to be much, much more. All right, so let's go ahead and turn this layer off and hide everything and create a new layer. And this is going to be our, not our final draft. This is going to be a, we're going to call this our rough draft, right? Just like if you were writing a document, I'll just call it our rough draft or rough version or what have you. And that's what we're going to work with. That's the layer we're going to work within. Now, what I'd like to do with this, now for a small docking station, I've got this project, and let's start from the beginning here. I've got it about 8 inches wide by 6 1/4 inches, you know, 8 inches long, let's say, by 6 1/4 inches wide by 1.5 inches thick. Well, let's change it up, because I would like it, you know, I'm sitting here at my desk and I'm looking at the space, and I've got a mouse pad over to my right. I've got a keyboard, I've got my mouse and things, and if I can incorporate some kind of docking station that would hold my mouse pad and all that stuff, that would be pretty cool. But so that means that my project is going to have to be wider, right? 8 inches ain't going to cut it. I think I wish I had a tape measure or some kind of ruler on hand. Who has a desk without a ruler? What's up with that? If any of you are sitting in front of your desk and you're working with a desktop at a desktop versus a laptop, and all, do me a favor. If you have a tape measure handy or something like that, measure your keyboard and throw it up in the chat area and tell me what the measurement of it is and everything, and we can modify to that. But for now, I'm going to go under the assumption that I'm working with about a 20-inch wide project, 18 to 20 inches, right? I think a keyboard isn't that big, but we're gonna go 20 inches, and we can size it down from there. As far as the width, I'm gonna probably go a good for the keyboard, the docking station, the speaker, and everything. I'm gonna probably go a good 9 to 10 inches. We'll go 9.5. And then for the thickness of the material, because of this passive speaker and everything, I do want some thickness. So I want it to be at least, I'd love to have it 1.5 inches and then maybe tapering down to something smaller. So everything is at an arc, and even my keyboard, you know, I've got the little legs flipped out on the keyboard. So it's kind of up at an angle, which I like to type that way instead of being flat. So I'd like to have a little bit of an arch to it. But I can either work with 1 inch material, 3/4 inch, and all that stuff. We're going to start with a 3/4 inch piece of material and see how that goes, but I don't know how the speaker would sound being that shallow. Right? Right. All right. If anything, I'd most likely, you know, mill down a nice looking piece of wood to about 1 inch, because I usually have it milled pretty thick when I get my lumber from the sawmill and stuff. All right, or I could just take and glue 2 pieces of 3/4 inch board together and then run it through a planer down to the thickness that I want. But we're going to start out with 1/4. Now, you guys and girls that have joined me before, you know that I work off of my wasteboard and everything. All right, Chuck. Chuck is awesome. Chuck, 21.5 by 8.75 is the actual keyboard itself. If it's the actual keyboard itself, let me know, because then that's going to change my little desk caddy here a little bit. But thank you for doing that. What am I trying to say here? You know that when I'm carving, I work off of my wasteboard type jig with the new little cam jig that I made. So I work off the Z0 position is off of the bottom of my carving material, which is the top of my wasteboard. You can touch off on the top of your surface, however you want to set that up. And because I work with a jig that has a fence on the bottom and the side and everything that my wood references, I work in the bottom left corner for the starting point, the XY datum position. You can work off the center if that's where you want to start from. You can start from anywhere on your project board. I work off the bottom center. And for those of you that are new and wondering why, let's see if I can not hit cancel. Let's change that and go back to 17 by 6, another keyboard. Okay, excellent. So I'm going to go with the 20 by 9.5. Actually, I'll go 20 by 10. And I'm going to go with the 3/4 inch, and we'll see what we can do with that 17 by 6. And then I'll measure my keyboard too. And of course, this is where, you know, we customize things for different things. We'll find a happy medium and get it in there. So let's get back to that 0.75, and let's click OK this time instead of cancel. And I don't want to calculate those toolpaths that I've created. I'm going to get rid of them in just a moment. But let's look at what I was saying before I went into that little spiel. Was on my jig, I have a wasteboard, and this is going to just be a small segment of the wasteboard here. And on the position on that wasteboard, I have a set of boards that are positioned in, and actually let me back this one up. Let me shrink this one up. And let's get these moved over into position so you guys can kind of get the concept. All right. So I have a jig on my table that has fences on it that my corner of my board references up against. and keeps it square with the table. And then of course I have a series of holes running throughout the project where I have cams that when positioned and then rotated, they cam into the board to push pressure up against the fence. And if I take and copy this over here, I've got one on this side. And let's drag that pivot point over there. We'll talk about that pivot point in a minute. But when this cams, you know, it pushes against that side. So I've got a little cam jig that holds my parts in. So for me, that's why I reference off of my wasteboard in my job setup here. That's why I reference off my wasteboard, is because I have this this cam jig that I use. I don't want it ever cutting into it if I was cutting a part out. So by referencing my Z0 position off of the machine bed, or my wasteboard in this sense, I'll never really cut into it, only just graze across the top of it. And the reason why I work with the XY datum in the bottom left corner is because I zero out my X and Y off of the corner using my DWC Quickset zeroing tool. And so that's why my settings are like this. Your settings may be different. You may be working off the top of the material, starting from the center, whatever the case may be. That's you know, you're going to set your job up for your needs. Okay, so let's get rid of this stuff. That was for illustration purposes. And so Chuck has thrown out a couple of measurements. Awesome. And the big one is an old gaming keyboard with extra buttons on the left and the right. And the other one is just a normal, more common keyboard. So let's go with that more common 17.5 by 5.5 keyboard there. So let's kind of start there. Let's go with I'm going to draw a rectangle on the screen using the rectangle tool. And you'll find that if you're new with us, under the Create Vectors menu, we've got our shape tools, and third icon top row is our draw rectangle tool. Now for this rectangle, if I have a keyboard and I haven't measured mine, I'm going to work off of Chuck's numbers there. So if we got a 17.5, we don't want it being a pressure fit or anything like that. So I'm going to go, let's go 18 inches. And then on that 5.5, let's go 6. Just a nice little pocket area for where the keyboard can kind of sit in. I don't want it to be an inlay. I don't want to inlay the keyboard into the tray, you know. So we'll kind of go there. And I'm going to go with some radius corners. I'll go with probably about a 0.3. On the radius corners there, just to give it a little bit of a nice corner look. A little more in the 1/4 inch radius, we'll go 0.3, and just to kind of smooth off those sharp corners and stuff. Now if I double click on my vector that I just drawn, it puts it in transform mode. And what transform mode is basically when we're transforming an object, and this is more so for the new guys and girls versus you guys and girls who have been with me each week. The transform objects menu, when we're transforming an object that we've created, we are moving it, sizing it, rotating it, mirror or copying it, distorting it, or aligning it in some way, whether we're aligning it to our material or another object. And in this case, I'm going to align it left and right on my board here. Now what I'm probably going to end up doing is I'll probably make this a little bigger. I've got a decent sized desk here in front of me, and I've got two curved monitors that I'm looking at here, two curved screens, and I have no idea what their size are. I think they're 21 inches or something like that. But I've got a good little open area on my desk here that I could actually make a nice little caddy and kind of maybe get rid of some of this other miscellaneous junk that's on my desk. But so for right now, I'll center the keyboard on this caddy. And then up here is where I think over to the right, yeah, let's go to the right, is where I'm going to put the passive speaker, and the cell phone will go here. I'm going to, my keyboard does have a wire that comes out of the top of it, and the wire is actually on the right side, so I will put my speaker over here, my cell phone speaker over here, and then I'm going to make a little trail here for the wire for the keyboard and all, to kind of, you know, travel without, because I think I'm going to have the keyboard kind of sitting down a little bit in this. We'll find out. Let's go from there. So with that being said, let's get the speaker drawn. So my first circle that I'm going to draw is going to be 3/4 inches in diameter. And we'll get that on the screen. Now from here, I'm going to offset this outward more and more and more. And each of these rings, these offsets that I'm going to be making, are going to be cut at different depths to create that cone speaker shape. So we're going to use the offset tool under offset and layout. It's the first icon, bottom row. And we're going to offset outward. And I'm going to, you know, on the spacing, I'm going to be using a 60-degree V-bit, 1/4 inch white side 60-degree V-bit. I want a kind of a narrow cone on the walls and everything. If I wanted it to be a little bit wider, and again, this is where the concept comes in. You know, I'll do some testing. If I did a 90-degree, then my walls would be, you know, even more angled type of thing. I'm going to start with the 60-degree and see how that goes. But on that 60 degrees, I'm going to be doing some inside profile cuts, or profile cuts, should I say. So the spacing of these lines is going to be important. I am going to space them out a 1/16 of an inch. Yeah, 1/16 of an inch. I want to select new, so every time I click offset, it's going to draw the new offset circle and select it, and that way I can just keep clicking my offset button to get the rings that I want to create this speaker. And I'd like to have it a really good size. Now, how many rings and how much my depth of cut is per ring is going to determine how many rings that I would need. If again, I'm not cutting through my material. I want to leave some material down here in this pocket cut that's going to be cut. But however, whatever depth I need to cut to get this to ramp up in a nice look, will determine how many of these circles I need. So right now, from my original, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I believe. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've got 11, not counting my original. So probably a couple of those will be I won't need. Let's see here. Let's bring it down to 10. Get rid of that last one. Now, my cell phone is going to sit because my speaker is on the top of the phone. I could either sit it upside down in there, but if I do that, my speaker is on the right side of the phone. If I have the screen facing me, well, then that means my slot would have to be over here. If this speaker was on the right side, then that would be, you know, acceptable. I'm going to be turning the phone on its side, and that will put my speaker down in the bottom left corner and everything. That will allow me to put my slot over here. So I'm going to just draw a rectangle for now. And this rectangle is going to be a 1/2 inch in height, basically kind of the width of it. And the cell phone its slot itself, I'm going to go with 7.5 inches. Now my phone's smaller than that, but this will give me plenty of room to kind of slide things in and all that stuff. And then I'll end up, I think on my tablet, I have like a 10.5 inch tablet. I may, want to put a tablet in there. Who knows? You never know what this docking station could turn into. We could make it a little wider and put our mouse pad over here, all this stuff. So what I want to do now, guys and girls, is I want to take and I want to make sure that this rectangle is centered up and down within the center of this circle. So we're going to select the rectangle first and then select the circle last and go into the alignment tools, and that last item that I selected is going to be my selection, and I want that rectangle, the first item, to be centered up and down. So I want to click this third button here under the center category and bring it up. And here at the end, instead of these sharp corners and stuff, I'd like to go into node editing. Second icon under edit objects. And on this line, this span, a span is a line between two nodes, I'm going to right click and change it from a line to an arc. Let it bubble out like that, and that will be my slot. All right. Now, on my slot for my phone cord, I could be, basic and kind of just draw a rectangle there and, give a little slot for the cord to go out because it is right at the top of the keyboard and everything. I may, might not even need it, but I want to give it a little bit of style. We're going to kind of make that cord kind of S-curve out a little bit and all. So let's get rid of that rectangle. Actually, we'll leave the rectangle in there. I'm going to have it go past the line a bit. And I'm going to go into node editing mode. And I'm going to take and turn it into this line here, this span. I'm going to right click on it and turn it into a Bezier curve. And give myself a little curve here. And then I'm going to delete, or not, while I'm in node editing, I'm going to right click on this and delete this span. Okay. And on the span that's here, I'm going to separate it for a moment because I've got these two little legs right here. If I go back into node editing mode, I got these two spans at the top and the bottom. I'm going to right click on this bottom node and cut the vector there. On this top corner, I'm going to cut the vector here, right click and cut the vector on there. And what that's done is separated this. Let's get out of node editing for a moment. It's separated this vector from the rest. That way I can double click on it and put it in transform mode. Hold down my control key and just drag over a copy of it ever so slightly. And my cable is just like almost that's coming out of the computers is almost I'm assuming it's probably about 1/8 of an inch or whatever the case may be. So on this distance here, I'd probably want it to be pretty tight, so when I press it down in there, it follows the path and it kind of holds it there. So let's do this a different way. I'm going to undo, Control Z, or you can use your undo button. I'm going to undo that drag, that copy that I made, and let's do this a different way. I'm going to right click and copy this. Okay, right click and paste. Now, if you use keyboard shortcuts, it's Control C for copy, Control V for paste, but I'm going to use the right click menu. And that's going to paste this line right on top of the line that I'm copying. And now I'm going to use my move tool, the first icon under transform objects, and I'm going to relatively move it along the x-axis a negative 0.125, eighth of an inch over. Okay. And from there, I'm going to use my scissor tools, making sure that rejoin trim vectors selections are automatically, trim sections are automatically joined when the form is closed. So I'm going to trim here to close off that end. And if I sneak down here, my other line is, hidden by the line of the keyboard. I'm going to trim that away because it was on top, and that will close off my vector on this front side. And then I'm going to select this back line here and come over to my join tool, first icon on the last row, and I'm just going to simply take those two vectors that I've got and join them into one by clicking the join button. And this is going to be the vector for my pocket cut. Now on this, because all of this area within this rectangle is going to be pocketed out, I want to go ahead and extend this vector a little bit beyond the line. So that way my router bit, I don't leave a little skin of wood right here when where these two pockets meet and everything. I want to overlap it so I get a nice clean cut and everything. Awesome. So that'll be my little keyboard hole. All right. So now what else can we put here? Let's put a little miscellaneous pocket here for paper clips, change, whatever the case may be. And then I'm going to, with that rectangle tool again, I'm going to put in a couple of slots here for maybe a pen holder or pencil, whatever the case may be. And I will, let's do two of them. How wide is that? Let's look at our size tool and see how wide that is. It's about a 1/2 inch. That's plenty wide. My goodness. Pins aren't that fat, I don't think. We'll go just a straight 1/2 inch. And don't want to get too close to my speaker now, so a single pin slot is fine. I'm not in school. I don't have pens and crowns and markers and all that, so a single pin slot will be fine. There. Now I'll probably end up with this one. Let's round off the ends. So I'm going to go with a node editing, and on this span here I'm going to put my mouse right on the line and right click and change it to an arc. Same thing on this end. Right click and change that to an arc. Alright. And now that I have that, let's get out of node editing by going back into our selection mode and shorten this up a little bit. Clean that up. Alright. On this here, I'm going to be doing a V-carve kind of angled walls. This pocket here, I'll most likely use a box core bit of sorts, so I have a rounded bottom, a nice little rounded bottom instead of a flat. This one will be just an end mill, cutting it out. But because I want a nice little organic shapes and smooth and stuff, I'm gonna go back into my rectangle tool here, and I'm gonna give myself a little radius on that where that pocket's going to be, a nice little radius on those corners. All right, let's see here. Jeff threw out, put a hole through the board and put your slot on the underside. Put a hole through the board and put your slot through the underside. So Jeff, with the way my keyboard is configured, the wires at the top, so to open, Jeff is saying, you know, well, you can bend your wire down, put the slot on the bottom side. That way it's coming out of the bottom side of the of this, and that way you don't have this slot cutting through the top, and it gives you more space over here to do something else with it. You know, maybe make this catch-all pocket wider and everything. We don't have this cable running in the way. So that's a good idea. That would, Jeff, that would take it from a single-sided project to a two-sided project, which is, you know, not a bad deal at all. And all, we could do that for sure. So we'll that's an excellent idea. We'll have the cable go down and then underneath, so we'll keep that concept in mind too. Great suggestion. With that then, I'm going to do that. Then that gives me the opportunity to line up to that. Now, if you notice what I just did, what did I just do? As I was moving, I wanted this rectangle to be in line with this one. So keeping my left mouse button held down as I'm dragging this out, I can keep my mouse held down and wake up this vector. But just hover right over this, and what it does is it gives me this guideline here and allows me to snap my object to that guideline, ensuring that both of them are lined up. Okay, so excellent. Now I'm going to leave this vector here for a minute. We are going to most likely move it to the other side. I'll end up doing a couple things there, but we'll just leave this here for visualization. But what we do need to do is we need to, if that cable is going to come out of the keyboard, there's going to be a 90-degree bend somewhere going down. So let's go ahead and get a circle. And I don't want it too close to the keyboard. I got to, you know, flexibility of the cables and all that stuff will go right about here. And that cable, because it's coming right out of the top of my keyboard, and we're going to make the size of this just a little over, because it's about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to go a little over. I don't know why I'm in that tool. That's not the right tool. My circle tool here. Hold my shift key down and select that circle again so I can edit it. I don't want it to be a tight fit and also I've got a USB slot at the end, Jeff. I got a USB that plug in at the end, so that means I'm gonna have to cut a square slot in there for the USB to fit through, because I'm not cutting that end off off the end of my keyboard just to get that down in that hole. It's kind of throwing a little wrench in the plan. This isn't a wireless keyboard, so let's think about that for a moment. But if I do this and everything, I'll go 0.15 on the diameter of the hole, and then I'm gonna have to get my USB plug-in in there, so I'll have to measure that. And I'll have to cut that little square in there, which won't be too bad. It wouldn't look too bad. We'll see. I may still go with the original concept of running across the top. But let's center these two objects up to one another using the alignment tool and center. Under the align to selection, I'm aligning to one another. Whatever object I select first is what I want to align. Whatever object I select last is what I want to align to, and click the center button. Now I'm going to take both of these and then select this shape last, and I should be able to, oh, No, it's an S curve, so that's not going to work. So I'm just going to use my left arrow key, turn this vector off, use my left arrow key, and just kind of eyeball it. Right about there. All right, so I have a little square with a circle in there. Excellent. Man, I got a cramp in my arm. I'm not sure why. All this typing. All right, so I'll have to measure the little plug-in at the end of my keyboard and see where it goes from there. So we've got some concepts. All right, now if I were to extend this board out a little slightly lighter slider, then I could have an area for my mouse, little mouse pad. But looking at my mouse pad that I use and looking how much I maneuver my mouse, if I had a mouse with one of those roller balls or something in it where it was kind of stationary type of thing, then a small, extending this out a bit and putting a small mouse pad for the mouse to rest on here would be okay. But I use the full range of my mouse when moving around and stuff. And my mouse pad is big. I wouldn't want to incorporate that in to this too much, because this is going to be the desktop accessory versus the original concept, which is going to be a little charging docking station for, nightstands, dressers, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So this is just version number 2. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and think about a couple of things. One is, do I want to have this taper down a bit? If I do, then I'm going to have to, figure out how I'm going to machine that to taper it down. If this were a spire, then I could just draw the model of that and of that component or that angle and all, but I'm working in Pro, so I got to work around that. For right now, let's go ahead and just create our toolpaths and see where we are and what we're looking like. So we're going to switch out of the drawing side for a moment over to the toolpath side. Now, these toolpaths here were for that original concept part. I don't want them to confuse you and everything, so what I'm going to do is, let's see here, I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to delete all. Get rid of them, because we're going to start from here. I could have just kept adding and adding to this list, but then you'd be like, okay, which toolpath was what? Which toolpath was what? I'll end up recreating them in a smaller project. I've changed my board size and all, so it's going to be a completely different project. All right, so what do we got here? So we got some pocket cuts and things. Let's start with this pocket here. I know what I want it to be. I want this pocket, I use the pocket toolpath, I want it to be a 1/2 inch. I'm going to go 0.4 inches deep on that, and I'm going to be using a 1/8 inch end mill to cut that pocket. I could use a 1/4 inch because it is a 1/2 inch wide. Let's do that for machining purposes and time and everything. We'll use a 1/2 inch router bit, and with it selected, we'll go ahead and calculate that toolpath and just get that pocket cut. Okay, so we've got that slot. All right, and then for this slot here, this little pin holder, I want to use a box core bit for this one, and it's going to be very shallow. I'm going to probably go 1/8 of an inch, just enough, kind of like a little cove for a pin to rest in and stuff and not roll around. So I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch deep. But I want to use a box core bit. I'm going to use a 3/8 inch box core bit to cut this. Now, that being said, my pocket was I believe it was 1/2 inch wide. Didn't I go with a 1/2 inch wide? Let's look at the size tool. I did. So, which is good. So it'll be a couple of passes on that. But that'll give me a nice little rounded cut. And with that, we'll calculate that bad boy. Oh, actually, I'm an idiot. I don't need a pocket cut. Who's the goofball there, guys and girls? Laney is. I am going to draw a line from here to here across the center of this. It's a box core bit, so I'm just going to use that line and do a profile toolpath an 1/8 of an inch deep with my box core bit, my round box core bit. Okay. I want to be on the line. I want it to cut right on that line and everything. So let's go ahead and calculate that toolpath. Okay, that'll be my little pen holder area. All right, now over here, there's going to be 2 toolpaths for this. One is a pocket, and the other is going to be a profile. Let's start with that first. And I do have this extended over, thinking that I am going to go underneath and bring the cable out the bottom side. If I was doing it off the top side the way we originally had it, I would not have the cable running through this thing. I would shorten this area up, you know, to some kind of little catch-all. But we'll make that wider and everything. And we're going to use this, and then we'll figure out this part in a moment. So that's going to be a pocket cut there. And for this pocket, I'm going to only go about 0.2. Yeah, 0.2 is good. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch end mill, and I'm going to calculate that to pocket out that area. And with that, I want a nice, instead of these walls being straight up and down, I want a nice angle to them, a nice, you know, transitional angle to those. But what I want to make sure of is that this pin slot isn't too close. So what I'm actually going to do is open up this profile toolpath for the pin slot, reopen it, and I'm going to take this pin slot here, and I'm just going to shift it over a bit, just a little bit. There we go. And I'm just going to recalculate, turn off this outer diameter, recalculate this one, kind of move it over a little bit. So let's get back to our preview there. Now for that nice little transition or angled walls and things, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a profile toolpath on this vector here. And I'm going to use my 60-degree V-bit. Most of you got a 60-degree V-bit with your machine and stuff. And we're going to cut on the line, cutting on the line. So machining on the line, and I'm going to the depth of that 0.2, that same depth as the pocket. So we'll go ahead and calculate this. And we'll get that nice little angle, 60-degree angle. If you want more of a slope, use a 90, 120, whatever the case may be. I just want a nice little pocket area there with a nice little angled walls and things. All right, so coming along. Now we're getting the basic stuff out of the way before we get into the speaker. So for the keyboard, this is going to be a pocket. Now, right now I'm doing everything under the assumption that this board's going to be flat. And I think what I'm going to do, instead of trying to mill an angle into this, I think I'm going to just put from the bottom side, since I will be working on the bottom for the cable and all, I think I'll just put some rubber feet on the back side to give it, you know, raised up or something. But we'll also look at if we had to mill it, if we wanted to kind of thin things out towards the front or what have you. We may want to do that anyway, because I don't know if I want the keyboard sitting down in this too far. So we'll see. Let's go ahead, and this is going to be a pocket cut. And my keyboard's a good it's thicker than 1/4 of an inch for sure. So I think, and all I want is just a nice little resting area in there, so I don't need to go too deep. So what I'm probably going to do is stick with the 0.2 with that 1/4 inch end mill, and we'll calculate that out. Now, Bob threw in a comment. Says use a box core instead of a V-bit. So Bob is saying on the outer rim here, and let's preview this before we move on to that. And the reason why the previews are taking long, I'm set up to maximum view on the simulation quality. I'll probably end up turning that down in just a second. Okay, so now Bob is saying, you know, instead of using a V-bit, use the box core bit on the walls here to give a little bit of a roundness to that. Box core bit, bowl cutting bit, things like that. But let's take a look at what this toolpath would look like with the box core bit here on the edge instead of the V bit. Let's go back into that pocket cut, and we'll change up to a box core bit on that profile cut. And now if I'm cutting on the line, that means half my bit is cutting on, half is inside the pocket and everything. So what that's going to do is that's going to give me this radius here. So my little caddy is going to kind of, instead of that 60-degree angle, it's going to have a slight curvature to it and all. So I will stay with machining on the line for that, and we'll calculate that out. And let's take, and let me turn my preview simulation quality down a little bit, and let's calculate this toolpath, and let's preview all of them one more time, and let's see what that change to a box core bit does for us. Very nice, very nice. Excellent suggestion, Bob. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't know if I would do that with the keyboard pocket. I think I'd leave the keyboard pocket like it is. But, yeah, I think I'll leave the keyboard pocket like it is. But that is a really nice look. And keep that in mind, guys. That's a really nice look. So for like a little change caddy for, you know, wallet caddy or something for men, or a little jewelry and purse caddy and all, that's actually not too bad, too shabby of a look there for a nice little shallow piece and everything. So good job, Bob. Thank you. All right. Now let's focus on this for a minute before we get into the speaker. The speaker is going to take a moment. So let's look at what I've got here for this rectangle for the size. So I've got it about 0.3 inches wide, 1/8 inch thick, I don't have a tape measure or set of calipers to know. I don't want this hole too big, but I want it big enough that a USB plug could slip through it. This rectangular cutout that's here. Let's give it just a little bit more. And on the width, let's be a little generous. We'll go 9/16. And that'll be fine. Now this particular pocket is going to be cut all the way through. So rather than pocketing it, we're going to profile cut it, all the way through. And then our groove on the other side, we'll end up changing this project from a single-sided project to a two-sided project here in a second. So Joe threw out 0.600 by 0.400. All right, there we go. So, and that you think that'll give me a comfortable slip through. So we got to go 0.6. So let's give a little bit of leeway. So let's go 0.625. Oops. Give a little bit of leeway. And on the height, so they're thick, huh? They're more than 1/4 of an inch. So we'll go 0.4. 0.4. So we'll go 1.45. All right, somebody valued that to me. So add 20 thousandths of an inch would be best. So 0.62, 0.42. Yeah, so we're close there. We're close there. Let's go 0.42, and we'll leave this one at 0.625. All right, so that's a big old USB, but yeah, that's probably about right. All right, so let's go ahead and, knowing that when this cuts, it's going to radius these corners and everything. I think I should still be able to fit that part through easily. But do I want to, the question of the day is do I want to do a dog bone fillet for the router bit to escape? I mean, this is not like a puzzle piece. We're just trying to get that plug through the hole. Let's go ahead and if we were working in Aspire, Bob, that would be the great way to go. We're working in VCarve Pro. Bob's suggestion is create the keyboard pocket as a component and use the tilt and fade and everything. It's a phenomenal idea if we were using Aspire. We're working in Pro. We're making this versatile so desktop Pro and Aspire users can use it. But excellent idea. We'll go ahead and leave that as is for the moment. Let's go ahead and profile cut this out. I'm going to be on the inside of this. I'll go ahead and use a 1/4 inch end mill and calculate. Oh, it would help if I gave myself the proper depth of cut. And so what that did, let's go 0.75. So that comes into my box core is brought my caddy out a little bit. So what I'm going to do, because of the box core bit, and everything, and how close I am here and stuff. It's actually uh, tell you what, we'll do this. We'll bring this up a little bit. I changed my, well, that was stupid on my part. I changed my caddy size just a little bit. And I don't know if I would mind the USB hole cutting into it, just not as much as it was. And that's fine. All right, now with that, I've got this cable here that's going to go down into this hole and everything. So I still need to kind of pocket this area out here. So let's go ahead and take a line tool, and I'll just draw a line here for a moment. Now before I start trimming this away and everything, I'm going to take and copy this to another layer, because I'm going to end up moving it to the other side. It's not a two-sided project yet, so I can't copy it to the other side just yet, but I can copy it to a new layer. And I'll call this my cable track. I'm going to turn that off for a moment, because I'm going to end up taking and cleaning this up here. So that I have my vector for my small little pocket cut. And I got to use an 1/8 inch end mill with this one, because it's only an 1/8 inch wide or so I'll use an 1/8 inch end mill. And I'm going to go have that bend down. What was my depth of cut? Let's go a little deeper. I think 0.2, wasn't I at? There we go. All right, which will be fine. We'll end up, again, this is a concept, test cut, see what fits, what looks good, what doesn't, but the keyboard's actually going to be sitting here. The cable's coming out of the top, so this little slot here is probably not even needed. Most likely it's not even needed, because the cable's coming out of the top and it's bending down. So let's get rid of that. All right, now let's focus on changing this to a two-sided project. Let's focus on our speaker and see what we come up with. First thing I'm going to do is, because I now have kind of committed to a two-sided project, we're going to change this to a two-sided project here. I will be touching off on the machine bed on both sides because of my jig, and I'll still be working off the bottom left corner, and I will be flipping it along the y-axis, my y-axis. So it's recalculating my toolpath for me. Now I can come in here and let's get rid of this vector. Now I can come in here and turn my cable track vector back on and move it to the other side. Okay, and I don't need this vector here anymore. I can delete that. Move it to the other side. I can still faintly see it. It just shows me where that outline is and everything. And I don't necessarily need it to run all the way to the keyboard. So I will flip over to the other side for a moment. And I will shorten this up because I only needed to go into that hole, you know. For this will be a pocket cut. While I'm here, might as well do it. It will be a pocket cut. And I'm going to go, I'll just go 0.2 with that. 1/8 inch end mill. Calculate that toolpath. And what happened there? Okay, my curve, my 1/8 inch bit can't fit in some of these areas. So let's widen it up a bit. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, so I want a nice clean exit out of here. I don't want any rounded edges. Sorry about the jumping around there. I want to zoom into this. All right, so that'll be fine. And let's get this in 3D view here, and let's preview all sides. See where we're at so far. Let's see here. So Joe throws in 0.06 radius on the corners. Yep. I could. Yep, Joe. He's talking about for the USB slot. I'm gonna let the router bit radius it, but yes, we can put that in. Bob throws back about he understands about it being just a versatile project, but yes, Bob, it was a great idea. And now Bob throws back out to us. Can the cord come out from under the keyboard? No, because well, I mean, it depends on the keyboard itself, Bob. On my particular keyboard, if you can see my little screen in the bottom right corner of the screen there, my cable, it's a corded cable here. It comes out of the top of the keyboard. So basically it's going to come out a little bit and bend down and go through that, and then it's going to, through that 3/4 of an inch, and it's going to then race out to the back, versus come down underneath the keyboard, without putting too much stress or bending on that cable. So, and then would it be best to would it be just as easy to do this the same way you did the pin slot on a single line? Yeah, we could. So Bob is saying on the back side here, if I was using an end mill, my 1/8 inch end mill, and I needed this to cut an 1/8 of an inch, right? Wouldn't it be just as easy to have like an S curve single line and run a profile toolpath? Absolutely. Way number 2 to do it. So we could sit there and go into node editing mode. That's why we're collaborating. Cut the vector. Let's not cut the vector. Let's delete the span. We'll delete this one too since I cut it. I'll delete this span here. And down here. So I end up with a single line. And for our tool path, we will delete this. and go into a profile toolpath. Still going to cut the same depth. I'm going to use a 1/8 inch end mill on the line, calculate, and let's reset this preview. Actually, let me change one thing before I do that. Move it over a little bit. All right, recalculate that and preview all the toolpaths. There we go. Preview all sides. Okay. So far, so good. Let's get our speaker done. That's the main attraction today, passive speaker. So let's get our speaker done here. All right, so I'm going to start and work my way in. I'm going to start from the outside and work my way in. And with this, I'm going to use a V-bit for this. I want some angled walls and stuff. But I need to see what my depth is. So my maximum pocket depth here, this is a 3/4 inch board. I do not want to cut all the way through my board. So I'm going to limit this to 5/8 of an inch. Okay. So that's going to give me about, just leave a little 1/8 inch material, which is plenty. But that's going to be my final cut. And it's progressively going to come up. It's progressively going to come up until everything is done. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go with a profile toolpath. And we're going to go for the depth of cut, for this first depth of cut here. What I want to do is I want to see, because I'm going to basically be kind of doubling up, if my total depth of cut is going to be 0.625, and that's here, and I've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Did I get that 11th one back in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. All right. I'm going to divide this up by 11 to get my depth of cut there. If I do this right, I should end up right on target. So we're going to double this every single time for each line on. So 1/8 inch, I want my V-bit, 60-degree V-bit. Bum, bum, bum. And click OK. And I probably could eliminate some of these lines and do less, but I like a smooth cut, so I'll leave them there. So we'll go ahead and I'm gonna keep this value, just copy that value just to have it there, and I'm gonna calculate this toolpath. Let's flip back over front side here. And let's split the screen so you guys, let's split the screen and let's focus the screen on both of these here. So we're kind of working together. All right, so with that toolpath, I am going to just continue on. Profile toolpath, we'll grab the next one. On my value, which is still in here, I'm just going to multiply that by 2 and calculate. This third one, profile toolpath. I could just add the cut in there, but what I'm going to do is I'll paste the value, my cut value in there, and I'm just going to continue multiplying by 3. There's probably a different way you guys would approach that. However you want to approach it, that's fine. This is kind of my method here. I'm going to paste that value in and multiply that by 4. And calculate. Now let's take a look at what we're doing. Let's go ahead and preview these 4 toolpaths now so we can see the cut and make sure that we're actually even doing it right, that we'll get the result that we want. So we're going to preview the visible toolpaths. Okay. Let me tilt this a little bit. A little bit of an optical delusion. So we're going down progressively. We've got the center still to work out, so let's continue on. Let's continue on. We'll grab our next ring here. I'm going to paste that value and multiply that by 5 and calculate. Oops, that was stupid. Hold on a minute. Times 5. Hit that equal sign, get that value in there. Calculate that toolpath. I'm wanting these steps. I'm wanting that speaker kind of effect. We could smooth it out. If I were smoothing it out, I would have less lines, deeper cuts with my end mill because I can cut up to 0.2 inches deep at a time. But I'm wanting these little step lines. I'm thinking, if you ever seen a speaker cone, it's got those little steps. I'm thinking that's going to have give us some effect on the sound. That's why I'm doing this. That's why we've got these small little step ridges and things. All right, so moving on, moving along. Profile toolpath. Again, paste my original value in there. Multiply that by 6 because I'm on my 6th cut. Hit equals and paste, or cut, not paste. These two, let's go ahead and preview those. Let's kind of work our way down. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. Now, right about here is where I want to stop. I want to go ahead and pocket this down because I don't want my bit right. I actually need to come back a little bit more. Right now, my V-bit is cutting in here, but it's my shank and all is most likely hitting on this inner edge. So I need to get rid of this this meat in the middle. And so I may do that pocket cut first. So I'm going to do a pocket cut here to my full depth of 0.625 with my 1/4 inch end mill. And get rid of that meat. That's in there. And bear with me. One, two, three, four, five, 6. Bear with me, guys. I'm doing a little look-a-loo here. 0.6278. So about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to take this ring right here and pocket that down about 1/8 of an inch. This will make sense in a moment. What I'm attempting to avoid is that my shank on my V-bit, because my V-bit only has a maximum cutting flute of 0.2. As it's moving over, cutting, it's fine on the right side because this area has been cut away. But on the left side of the bit, you know, I take a chance of colliding my end mill shank with this center cone, right? So I want to kind of remove some of that waste material. And but I want to make sure that I don't get into my cut too much. Let's go ahead and let's change this to 0.25. There we go. All right, so these two pocket cuts right here, these relief cuts, I'll call them, I want to move them up. Let's see. I want to move them up. In the list on what order they're going to run in. They're going to be my relief cuts. So we'll preview this one by one so you'll see in just a moment. Now let's get back to where we were. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where I'm at now, let's go to number 7. And almost there. Profile cut. I'll probably end up doing something. So let's paste that value in there. I've still got it copied from before. Times 7 equals, and calculate. All right. Again, profile cut. Next line. The software is keeping the last value I used in there. So that's why I have this original value copied, so I can just paste in that box and just kind of work my way down. And again, long approach, and the only reason I'm doing this, there's a better way, a more optimized way of doing this, so I'll show you in a moment. The only reason I'm doing this is because I want these ridges. I want that speaker look in a sense. If you want a nice smooth cut, I'll show you how to do that as well. But that's the purpose of what I'm doing here. All right, so moving along. Times 9. Times 9 equals, don't forget to hit that equal sign. All right, let's preview those cuts. Okay, once again, we're getting into, you can see on this ridge here, see on this ridge here, this straight meat right here where the V cut comes into there, that straight area is where my shank of my bit, I only have a 0.2 depth of cut, you know, maximum depth of cut on that flute. On the left side, I'm fine, but on that right side or whatever side of the bit it is, I've exceeded my depth of cut, so my shank is colliding with this part here. So we need to mill that down, and I'm pretty safe to take this that I've got. I can actually step back 1, and I'm going to make one more pocket cut. And I'm going to cut down 0.375. with my 1/4 inch end mill. And that pocket cut, and all these are out of order right now. We're going to move them up where they belong, and then you'll see everything come together. All right, couple more cuts. We only have 2 more to go, and our speaker should be finished. All right, so profile toolpath. Paste times 10 equals. All right, and this is line number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right there. Calculate. Preview that cut. Okay, I skipped a line. Guys. So let's open this one back up. And that actually goes here. And recalculate it on that line. There we go. And now my final one. All right, so my final, not necessarily my final, but you know, almost there. And on the line, that's going to be for this one right here. Okay, and I'm still got to do this here, and this one's going to be my 0.625. I don't need to do no math, don't need to do anything. Now all these profile toolpaths, they're all going to be all use the same bit. They're all going to be run together. We're going to save them as one file. We're not going to merge the toolpaths, like take all them and merge them together. We could, but in case I want to edit them or change them in any way whatsoever, you can't edit a merged toolpath. So I'm going to leave them individual. I'm just going to save them as one file, all the bits that use the same toolpath as one file. But let's go back in, or not go back in, but let's go to our profile toolpath. And for this one, it's going to be 0.625 on that circle. We're going to calculate that and preview that selected toolpath. And we're going to clean that out. Okay. So now, I'm hoping, and I missed a line. You can see how wide that gap is. I missed a line somewhere. No, it shows there. Let me preview that toolpath. Preview. Maybe my depth value is wrong on there, but that's fine. Gives me an authentic speaker look. All right. So now let's look and see what comments we've got. Steve Brenneman retracted his message. Okay, Steve, if you got another one, throw it out there. So this is this step down. I'll come back and look at my past steps on this one here in a moment. But I have this little step over, step down, step over, step down. It's kind of that speakered look. I want that for the simple fact that I think that's gonna do something with the reverb or the volume. I don't know. This is a concept, right? This is a, you know, but it's a thought, because if you ever seen those speakers, the inside of a speaker cone, they've got those little ribs and rings. There's a reason for that. There's something in that design. But if I wanted this to be just a smooth cone, straight down, I would not have this many lines or circles and things, because I have my V-bit has a maximum cut depth of 0.2. Okay, And so I would step my lines over that distance, and I would then profile cut them down to create a nice smooth cut. I could take, if I wanted to, I could take each one of these, which I wouldn't do. This would be the long way around. I could do an allowance offset, you know, and what have you. But when you're carving on the line, there's no allowance offset. Now I could take and carve inside the line, and that would dramatically change the depth of cut. To give you an example, if we go inside, we'll do a couple of them and I'll change them back, but we'll do the first three. If I go from, oh, not that one. Which one's that one? Let me find my first one there. There it is. I'll rename these too for you guys. So if I go inside the line for this cut and inside the line for this second cut and inside the line for this third cut, the let me reset the preview. And which ones that was? I think that was one. It's one, 2, and 3. Preview, visible toolpath. Okay, so if I go inside the line, I'm stepping over even more so than before. And it's because of the simple fact of the spacing of my lines. So remind me to change them. Let me do it now before I forget. I want to be on the line with these. Let me change them and let me show you how to get the smooth effect. Calculate that one. On the line, calculate that. And this is also, if you ever needed to do a chamfer, like a 45-degree cut at the end of a board or what have you. I'll show you. Calculate on the line. Calculate that. Well, let me get back where I was. All right, let's reset this preview. Let's go back over to our 2D view here for a moment, and let's kind of, let me see if I can illustrate this for you. Let me take a rectangle tool, and we're going to be looking at a side view. Okay? And let's say that my maximum depth of cut is 0.625. And the width, you know, from the, you know, end of my cut, which would basically be the center to the outside edge. If I look at my, let's close this tool. If I look at my size, my diameter, my outside diameter, 2 inches. Okay, so 1 inch is the radius. Let me go back where I was. Go back into my rectangle tool. Hold your shift key down when you want to edit a vector that you've already drawn. So on my height of this rectangle here from a side view, if I go 0.625, and then the width, you know, the radius is going to be 1 inch. Let's go 1 inch. Okay. And I'm using a, you know, a 60-degree V-bit. Okay. If I want this to be a nice smooth cut, then a 90 would be an even better bit, but I want kind of a deep, you know, angle cut and things. And so let me draw a line, snap to this corner here, and 60 degrees. So right now, And that's to the center of my circle. Bear with me a second. Let's move this over. I got to move this over. Move. Relative to its position, 1/2 inch. There we go. All right. So if this were my center 3/4 inch circle here, and I wanted a nice 60-degree smooth wall, and my V-bit, let's draw a V-bit. 60. And I have a 0.2 cut, and then I'm stepping down and over 0.2, and then whatever this final depth of cut is. I only need 3 lines to get that smooth cut. Okay, and so my depth of cut is going to be 0.2, 0.2, and then whatever it may be. So let me show you that. Let's go back to our here, and I'm going to put these vectors on a layer. Move to, I'll call this speaker, so I can hide it for a minute. And click OK, or hide it for a moment and then click OK. Let me leave it visible for a second because I want to copy and paste this one. Alright, so if I turn my speaker off for a moment, turn my tool paths off that you guys are seeing those lines. Move this guy over to the rough draft layer. All right, so ultimate goal is a nice smooth cone. I need 3, we'll go 3 lines in, so I'm going to offset this inward. Okay. An 1/8, let's see here, my V-bit is 1/4 inch wide. So we're going to step over 1/8 of an inch. 0.125. 1, 2. We'll go with a third one there. All right, so if I were using this, it would be a profile cut with a cut depth of 0.2, 60-degree V-bit. I want that bit when it cuts, it's going to cut on the outside of the line. And one of the things that I have to be mindful of is I'm going to be cutting here, and this is half my bit, 1/8 of an inch step over, so I'm technically cutting on this line, and the edge of my bit will be cutting out here. So with this line selected, we're going to be on the line. 0.2 depth of cut, 60-degree V-bit. We're going to calculate that. Preview that toolpath. Okay, that's going to give me my first cut. Now I'm going to jump over here. Profile toolpath. 0.4. Oops, too many decimal points. 0.4 on the line. Calculate. Preview that second toolpath. Now, don't you do that. Did I skip a line? Bear with me. Calculate. Let's reset that preview. I screwed up those two. 1, 2. Buckle my shoe. Okay. Slight little step over that I need to clean up, so I'll probably do an offset allowance on that. But let's go ahead and my final cut is profile toolpath 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.6. And I probably could go the full 0.625. 625, we'll do that. Because over here, But you see what I'm running into? The issue I'm running into in the middle is I'm colliding with the center, so we're going to have to fix that as well. But let's do one at a time. Calculate. Preview. All right, and with that same circle there, that's a pocket cut. I'll use a quarter, 0.625 depth of cut, quarter-inch end mill, calculate, preview that toolpath. Let me turn the color off for a moment. All right. So, on our smooth cut, we've got just a slight offset here and here on these two cuts. So we could do one of two things. We could bring our lines in a little closer together, or we just do an allowance. So if I come back to these three cuts here, if I do an allowance, and it's not going to let me do an allowance while I'm on the line. Okay, it's not going to let me do an allowance while I'm on the line, so I've got to change up my vectors a minute. We're going to go here, and we're going to be inside and calculate. Inside the line will allow me to take an offset and everything. If my bit is a quarter-inch wide, that's the distance from here to here. My center line here should be right at that V at the depth of, cut. So I should be able to grab this line here. If that's my V, bear with me. If I go inside, right, I need this line. That's the center of my bit. Yeah, inside. Sorry, I screwed myself up there for a minute. Profile cut. Inside. I don't think I'm going to need an offset allowance, but we do need to go to our depth of 0.4. Why is that? Sorry, guys. I screwed up. Do that one more time. I got all these toolpaths. I'm clicking the wrong ones. This one, let's start here. 0.2, 60 degree. Perfect. That's where I need to be. Number 28. Number 29. 0.4. Inside the line. And that should be here. Inside the line. Damn. Did it again, guys. Ah! Right there. Calculate. Reset. Preview visible toolpath. Sorry, guys. All this seriousness behind. There we go. All right. And that allowance offset right here, I can now do an allowance offset. Let's do one more. Let's jump down to number 30. And inside the line here, calculate. Was the depth of cut 0.6, new, calculate, preview. Now let me get my center out of there. my pocket cut. Oh, what did I do with number 30? What the hell happened with number 30? Sorry guys, I got too many tool paths. I screwed myself up. Or a box score bit. Let's see here. 27 is my starting one. No, it's not. 28. 28, 29, and 30. That's my two. Remember that. 28, 29, and 30, Laney. Alright, point 2, depth of cut, 60 degree V-bit. This is much easier with a 90. 60 degree V-bit. We're going to allowance, offset, none on the first one. Wonderful. Preview that toolpath. That's going to be that. My second toolpath, number 29. This is where that big old deep cut was. That's going to be 0.4. We're going to double that up. 0.4. And it's going to be on the inside of the line. I'm going to offset it a little bit in the negative direction. We're going to go 10,000ths of an inch. Get rid of that extra decimal. And calculate. Preview the selected toolpath. Okay. Probably need to go a little more than 10,000ths of an inch. So we're going to open that back up and we're going to go 0.02. There we go. All right. Finally, number 30. Number 30. 0.6. Inside the line. Step over. 0.02. Calculate. See what happens when you don't rush. Preview the selected toolpath. All right. A negative 0.02, not a positive, ladies and gentlemen. Negative allowance offset, not a positive. Negative allowance offset. And then, with that done, my pocket cut. Let's actually take that. Let's take that. This profile cut right here, number 31, and make this 0.625 go into our final depth. On the inside of the line, 60 degree V-bit, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, this line here. Calculate. I didn't put in a offset allowance. Damn it. Negative numbers, guys. Negative. Oh, it is negative. What did I miss? What did I miss? Missed a line somewhere. Oh, no. Pocket cut. 0.625. That goes on this line right here. Okay, now I'm going to turn my preview visit. Now that I've got that laid out, I'm going to turn my quality simulation back up. And we're going to preview 1, 2, 3, 4. $28, $29, $30, $31 in a pocket cut. All right, so the offset allowance on this one here is just a little light. Need to bring it out a little bit more so we get a nice smooth cone. And that would be the long and short of it. To create that smooth ramp and everything in. I don't like the way the bottom one looks here, and I don't like the way that one looks. It needs to be cleaned up. So that cut, let me just, I'm anal retentive. 1, 2, 3. So that's the wrong toolpath. Offset allowance, 0.03. Calculate. Preview. There we go. And on that last one, if that's cutting there, I need a center line where the center of my bit is cutting. So I'm going to offset this. I'm going to offset this pocket cut. The allowance, I want it to come back a little bit. I want it to come beyond the line, because if we look at the 2D view, if we look at that, I want a nice transitional ramp. That final cut should have been at 0.625. Let me make sure it was 0.625, 0.6. All right, so the pocket cut, I'm going to offset that outward from outside of the pocket. That's going to be a positive number. Actually, it's going to be a negative number as well. Negative 0.0625, a 1/16 of an inch. Oh, overshot it with the 1/16 of an inch, but you get the idea. I overshot it with the 1/16 of an inch. It should have been probably a few 32nd. Here, let's go 0.03125. Let's recalculate that, and then we're gonna move on. We can't be stuck on this to get smooth walls when I don't want smooth walls. So long story short, you want to take and okay, so a 32nd on that pocket cut isn't enough, but a 1/16 is too much. Oh, I didn't do any allowance. 0.0 negative 0.03125. Calculate. Preview. Oh, still overshot it. So it's probably like a 0.02 or something. But anyway, you get the idea. Now, the whole purpose of that is if you wanted to have that smooth cone, you know, you could. But what you have to do is you have to look at your depth of cut represented by this rectangle, the angle of your V-bit represented by this line. This is a 60-degree angle. And then you have to determine how many steps you need to take to make that bit reach that depth, to cut that line and everything. How many profile cuts you need. If I were using a 90-degree V-bit, then my slope would be much grander. If I was doing 90, and that would be a 45-degree cut, of course, but my slope would be much grander, meaning my speaker would be more open. And it may require a 90-degree bit versus a 60. I don't want that big of I don't want that kind of a wide of an angle, but, and that would give me a smaller diaphragm area, that center hole, if I had a wider angle slope coming into it. But for now, I want the ridges. I want that speaker effect. So let's go into our pocket cuts. Let's get all of these turned back on. Preview. It's a moving along. All right. So far, hopefully that last part didn't confuse you. We just, in order to get a smooth transition, if you're trying to get any kind of sloped or angled cut, let's say you're making one of those decorative wine bottle balancers or something, and you got to put a miter at the end of your board, and you want to use your CNC versus your table saw or your bandsaw or whatever the case may be, and you want to put a miter cut on there, then it's going to be a 90-degree V-bit, that 45-degree, half angle, and you're going to, whatever your depth of cut is, 0 to what have you, and you need to figure out how many, what's the maximum depth of cut on that bit, the cutter, the angled part before it starts to straighten up at the top of the bit, the major part of the head. And you also need to know the diameter, the cutting diameter, and that'll tell you how far to step over your lines. It'll tell you how far, deep you need to cut and everything, and you're able to cut that angled cut and all. So keep that in mind. Now I've got one more that I've got to mill away here. I got to find out where that homeboy went to. Where'd he go to? That's that one. And I think number 27 is also me. Yeah. There we go. All right. Now, with this only being a 3/4 inch board, that is a pretty shallow speaker hole. How well will it amplify the sound? I don't know. It's all going to be in the test. Does this board have to be double its thickness? Does that cone have to be deeper? I wouldn't think that it would need to be deeper because, your ear canal and all that wonderful jazz and Moreau and all that stuff. But you kind of get it. So This would be my laptop station or my desktop kind of accessory little tray. Let me see what this little... oh, that's just a little scrap piece of wood. Okay. This would be my accessory tray. It would be a two-sided job. You know, there's a on the back side. I'd probably end up putting feet on this and creating the angle itself. But the, you know, my little cable groove in there, and turn my visibility of both sides back on. There we go. So we have that, you know, that would be the finished tray. Let's maximize my screen here so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So cell phone, built-in amplitude speaker, and passive speaker. From there, that would be version 1. If I turn off my cable track and stuff, my original concept with a smaller board, I'm going to end up taking that design and carving it on a thicker, smaller board, a little bit deeper cut, and seeing how the sound works on that. And then we'll end up, you know, modifying this. This will lead into, depending on the sound quality and everything, this will lead into different accessories for the office or home, for cell phone stations, docking stations, change caddies, wallet caddies, and things like that. Can be customized with carvings and names and company logos, and the possibilities are endless. This is where you use your imagination and kind of build it up from there. And in all, the main concept of this, getting it to you know, work or be a workable concept to a starting point, is going to be the passive speaker. That's going to be kind of the main selling feature, or the feature of this. I mean, you know, why else would I want this keyboard station, you know, other than to be able to, you know, rock out some music and have it amplified on my phone while I'm working in my PowerPoint presentation or whatever the case may be. Now, of course, think about it. When you're at your computer, I could have a tab open with Spotify or what have you, Spotify, playing, you know, while I'm working. You know, I don't necessarily need my cell phone, but if I'm working kind of hands-free and I don't have an earpiece or Bluetooth, and someone's talking to me and I got them on speakerphone, their voice is going to be amplified to me, you know, and my microphone of the phone will pick up my voice well, you know, when I'm on speaker, but they're, you know, it'll amplify that. And then, of course, smaller docking stations and things like that. So the possibilities are, it leads into so many other things, and it's just the getting the concept. Now, for me, I think out of a 1-inch piece of material, give me a little bit more depth in the speaker would be fine. I won't know until I actually carve this evening and make one, and then I come back in and perfect the design. Once I have the design tested and works and all, then I will be posting these files for, I'll clean up the toolpaths and everything, so it's not so confusing with all those profile toolpaths and all that over there. I'll clean them up, clean up the layers and everything, and organize the file for you. And if it's something you want to try, give it a shot. Right now we're going to kind of stop here and ask questions, or go into our Q&A segment and let you guys and girls ask questions, because I want to make sure that, you know, I didn't lose you too badly or confuse you too badly with that creating a smooth cone. All right, so go ahead and type any questions if you have any. Now's the time, and if you don't, we'll give it about 10 minutes or so, and then we will call it an evening. Once I get the files available or cleaned up and tested, built and tested, I will provide both versions, the little rock dock nightstand you know, passive speaker, little change grabber, key holder, whatever you call it, and a keyboard, you know, that, and files, and then you would just modify them to your size, your needs, your liking, whatever. You know what I mean? If you wanted to make something like this. Any questions? And Bob, to go back to Bob, or a box core bit, Bob, a box core. I want for that slot. You know, you had a great idea about the single line for the slot on the back side of the cable. You know, for the cable slot. I wouldn't use a box core bit for this one, Bob, because I want that cable to kind of press fit in there, and I would change my vector to whatever size, you know, it needed to be. But I want it to kind of press fit in there. I don't want it to be loose and stuff. I want it to kind of press fit in there and come out, you know, at the top. So if I had to lift that tray up, let's say I, you know, looking for a piece of paper on my desk, and is it underneath this thing? And I want my cable and all to go with it. So I want it kind of, I'm hoping that my cable will kind of snap into this groove, you know, type of deal on the back side. So guys, this is a very simple, basic project. I mean, there's nothing complicated about it. You know, I want to challenge you and stuff, in you know, with our projects and all. But I wanted to make this very simple concept piece, because I actually want to make one of these for myself, and this will lead into other things that I can carve and make for others, you know, to sell or what have you. But I want to make one, test it out, see what all it needs, what it's missing, what can be changed, and all that stuff. So it's just a way to start. Peter Hearn, general info. When doing large areas of area to clean out, should I just use an end mill, then finish with a ball nose to get a clean look? So yeah, your box core bit, I mean, of course, could pocket everything out, Peter. However, with that radius of that bit, let's go to my tool database here. With that radius of that bit, only the bottom part of that bit is cutting and clearing that flat bottom pocket, you know, depending on the radius of this bit and all, if it's a large pocket area, this would not be the optimized tool to pocket with. I would pocket with an upcut spiral, a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, whatever it may be, you know, and then I would do a finish cut, a profile cut around the edges with my V bit or my box core bit or my bowl bit, you know, if I was doing a chip and dip bowl tray and stuff, to finish up that edge. But I wouldn't use the whole box core bit to pocket the whole thing out, because it's only a small amount of the tip of that bit that's going to be flattening the surface, and I'll end up with you know, witness marks and things where the tool is, and it's not the proper tool for that. Use an end mill first, clear it to do all your clearing, and then your edge profile with your profile bit. Any other questions, guys? Now's the time. And it doesn't have to be on this project. It can be on anything. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. Now's the time. This is our Q&A moment. So, all right. By a show of hands, before we say goodbye to each other and everything, in the chat area, you guys and girls, if you're still with me, chime in. A project like this, or taking a concept like this, if it works and the speaker works well and all that stuff, modifying it, sizing it, doing different things with it, you know, a charging station for You know, we could cut pocket and slots for some USB ports and all, whatever the case may be. But even in its basic design and all, how many would make something like this, or make something for themselves or others, gifts, selling it, or what have you? Show of hands, yes or no. Yes being I would, or no, nah, it's not something that interests me. David, you're welcome. Thanks for watching. No show of hands, so nobody's left in the class. Peter, also for cutting a circle, use an end mill with just stepping it down about 1/8 of an inch each time. Yeah, absolutely, Peter. You would use an end mill to cut out your circle, for sure. Cool. Yeah, and you know, up in this pocket area here, you know, or somewhere in the opening, if it was somebody else, I mean, it could be customized with a company logo, customers' names, you know, whatever the case would be. Of course, this could be sized. This is one accessory of many. You know, a smaller little nightstand docking station or something. You know, customized with name or what have you, like I had with you know, the little rock dock type deal, you know, on a smaller project type of thing. You know, just a wallet caddy or a earring and bracelet catcher, you know, with a cell phone charging station, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the possibilities are, you know, pretty phenomenal. I mean, just there's a lot of little things that certain things can be incorporated into, you know, so for sure. All right, cool. All right, we're getting some yeses. Yeses. Awesome. Yep, there you go, Chuck. A little bit bigger, add a pinhole for sure. Yep. And of course, there's all kinds of different ways to make a passive speaker. If you're ever curious, you know, look at some of the ones, you know, Google, you know, cell phone speaker amplifier, cell phone or mobile phone passive speaker, and look at the there's so many different things out there and stuff. They look, some of them look different. Some of them, you know, look like bullhorns. Some of them, you know, have similar kind of holes and cutouts like this. With that angle cone. Some of them are enclosed completely to create like a little stair system. I mean, so there's so many different choices. Yeah. So Chuck, that's actually one of my favorite designs there that you showed. The link that Chuck Brazy showed in there is just to show a picture of a cell phone amplifier that's on the market from Groupon, a bamboo one. That's one of my favorite designs there, Chuck. I like the way that speaker looks and everything on that one. Kim, yeah, this would probably work better with a solid wood, you know. I mean, it could most likely be made out of pine as well, you know, and things like that. But It doesn't. I don't think that really will have a lot to do with it, but it should. It may. Rosewoods and things like that are more, you know, what they make guitars and stuff out of. A little bit more, you know, there's reasons why they choose, you know, certain woods and things. Their tones, you know, the tone may change. Your sound may get a little bit more, not only amplified, but a little bit more bassy and things. So there's, you know, different woods you're gonna have different results for sure. Yep. Peter, I believe there is a Vectric in Vectric.com, a free project for a speaker holder phone, which is a good practice project. And if any of you, if any of you have not, you know, checked out Vectric.com's free projects or DesignAndMake.com's free projects and things, do that. Be sure to do that. Download them and make some. They put them out all the time, and they're great to do. The sample baboon one could use multiple layers. Yes, yeah, Chuck, you're exactly right. That bamboo one, it is multiple layers and glued together to create that that speakered look, and everything. Those would be just regular profile cuts and pocket cuts to create the individual pieces, and then they're assembled, glued together. Once the glue dries, then it's sanded and cleaned up and everything to create that final piece. And it's a nice looking piece. It's one of my favorites. One of my favorite looking ones, should I say. For sure. A little bit of the old Dr. Pepper, and then all right. Well, I want to thank you once again for sticking with me. It's 9:37. We're going to go ahead and call it a night. I will be posting the files for this. I'll create a couple of versions, a couple of different things. Post the files for it in the Digital Woodcarver Owners Group, as always, for the Digital Woodcarver CNC owners. And for you guys and girls on YouTube or that are following, you know, me, you're more than welcome to, if you ever wanted a copy of this, you can simply email me at sales@digitalwoodcarver.com, and I'll send you a copy of the file. Or probably the easiest way is I'll put a download link in the description of the video. Duh. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, I'll see you soon. I want to thank you for joining us tonight on Spindle TV, your best source for CNC CAD/CAM training videos. If you're watching Spindle TV on YouTube, be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. You can find out more information about our training and products by visiting us at www.digitalwoodcarver.com.